And I'm going to copy streaming video and it's here. Hold on, I might have figured it out. Oh, gosh. Okay, I got this. What happened to letting? Okay. I had it and I lost it. Okay.
Tiffany, if you want to talk through anything, we're here.
I'm gonna please go to changing the name. Okay. It says connect my streaming software, but my streaming software is sending me somewhere else.
Okay. Can I just ask a clarifying question? What's to stop us from just getting everybody into the Zoom and managing Spotlight and mute? I'm just concerned that the streaming is not going to work this morning, and I think we've a window of a couple of minutes where we're going to lose everybody if we don't have.
Right. I think it's just getting the link out there as much as it's getting this other link out here.
Okay. So why don't we? I can't post a grid and flow, but I can email and or put it wherever I can comment. So do you want me and Nicole to go and try and get the link out to everybody?
Yeah. And let me give you the one we're using right now. Yeah, I put it on LinkedIn, and I'm just going to go ahead and start.
Okay. And let's record the main session when it starts and just abandon the streaming, yeah?
Yeah. And
so
then,
okay, you've got this.
Okay. I'm waiting. We have 10 people watching now. Okay. Let me start responding to all these text messages and we will get going. Hi, everybody. We're going to get going in a second here. Except for I need to open my email program. So, Susan, you are live on our screen, just so you know.
That's okay. I'm going to go off video for a sec. Tiffany, the Zoom I have in my email will work though, right? From last night, this link.
Yeah, this link should work.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let me get on that. Okay. Let me get on emailing people I can reach. Okay.
Watching, so we're getting close. We're getting close, everybody. Keep coming. Keep coming. I'm going to start emailing everybody. And all right, guys, we're getting there. Okay. Yeah, some tech issues. We're doing good. All right, we got everybody moving on. We're up to 23 and coming in. Ah, it's so funny because LinkedIn gave me a link to use and I thought I had it all attached and then it changed the link when we went live. So we're trying, but we're going to get there and it's going to be awesome. So thanks everybody for getting on. We're up to about 27. Changing the title. That was my thing. That worked. Okay. We're going to wait till I get to 30 and then I think I'm just going to go ahead and start. So in the meantime, how are you doing and how is your day? My day's been good. So if you haven't seen it, we launched the report last night. So it's on the NDGifts movement site. It's 80 pages of pure genius and love. So hopefully you all get a chance to enjoy it. So we're going to start again. I got 23 watching now. I'm waiting for the numbers to go up. If you need to email people, let them know about the change. That would be great. We also have people on the website if they need to, the webinar. And Jason, I'm glad you're here too. He's talking on it. Hey, Hughes, welcome to join. All right, everybody, we're going to get going. So once again, thank you and sorry for all the technical details. We're going to record this. Hello and welcome. We're going to record this and put it on the NDGifts movement website for anybody who's missing it due to our technical difficulties. But we're live and I'm in Southern California and we're going to meet people today from all over the world that have contributed to this amazing movement that we've called NDGifts. So what it is, it started out to be a process that Stanford went through to give us innovation. They wanted to try to get people to come up with new products and ideas during this time of COVID. And as you try to think of a product that can promote neurodiversity and promote it in the workplace, it was a little challenging. And we're going to meet our fearless leader in about 2 seconds, Ronan. But what we decided to do is you can't really make a product that's going to resolve all the challenges with people who are neurodiverse getting a job. So instead, we decided to create a report and to educate people. So the report that you'll see on the ndgiftsmovement.com site is broken into 3 sections. The first section is the business case for investing in neurodiversity, and it's broken down into ways that a business professional or anybody looking to start an effort can go ahead and read this and understand why it's just so critical that we change our business practices to let these groups be more successful and thrive at work. The second session is Voices of Our Community. So you're going to see or read from various different individuals, testimonials of non-tech jobs and their successes of using their strengths that they get from being neurodivergent. We're also going to get to hear some really interesting stories written by individuals that have coached people with autism for many years. So that's the Voices of Our Community. And the third section, you're going to find a research proposal. So we had a lot of PhDs or PhDs in training as myself, and we wanted to present a way that we feel that organizations can support us going into the organization and doing some research to find quantitative information to validate that making these changes you need to make to go into the workforce, to make the changes you need to make in your organization to allow neurodiverse people to come into your workforce and really thrive. And we feel if the individuals get a chance to thrive, they're going to create new and innovative ways of looking at a problem. And I think it's going to go ahead and spill over to other people starting to look at problems differently. So we believe that in the right environment, we can take creative potential of people and trade it into more innovation. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce or invite in my I'm trying to find Ronan. Well, I'm going to go ahead and Susan, if you want to jump in. I'm not quite sure where Ronan is. Oh, I'm just going to go ahead and promote this person. And it might not be Ronan. It might actually be a relative of his. So we shall see. Ronan, if you're listening to this, you need to get on the webinar. We might just put you in towards the end. So why don't I start with Susan. Susan, can you introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved in this?
Absolutely. My name is Susan O'Malley, and I'm logging in this morning from San Francisco in California. I'm an Irish export, which in case you can't hear that. And in my current core role, I work as a senior director at IDEO, the design and innovation consultancy based here in the Bay Area.
All right. So Susan, how did you get pulled into this project?
Absolutely. Earlier in the summer, I got a really intriguing email from Ronan, who was a fellow alum of the business school at Stanford, where he had attended quite some time back, and I had moved here 10 years ago to go to the program, and I had known about Ronan a little bit. I hadn't met him, but I'd come across his name, and he sent me this really phenomenally interesting email just saying, "Hey, there's this Stanford Embark program. We're putting something together, and I think you might add something." And on a leap of faith, really not knowing more than that, I just hopped on a call with him. And the thing I would say is that he was so singular in his vision, so passionate, so charismatic, and also so disarming in terms of how open he was about his life's journey and his work and his gifts, that I was just magnetically drawn to helping him out. And so with little more than a call or two, and then with a call with Tiffany, where we were both like, what the hell just happened? This guy just showed up and now we're doing all this work. And we sort of raised our hands to go on this journey with him. So so that's my story. Perhaps a little bit later on in the call, as suits Tiffany, I can talk a little bit about my connection to creativity and some of the research interests that I thought were relevant for the modern employer in terms of doing innovation work and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been great. So, well, I was going to say, so Susan, pretty much, we didn't know each other. We didn't know Ronan, and Ronan pretty much did the same thing to me and said, "Oh, Tiffany, you're the yin to my yang. You need to do this part of my project. You know more about neurodiversity and people." And I got roped in, and I was like, "Hey, you got 10 hours? Sure, no problem." Well, what is it, 8-9 weeks later, and I have now put in probably 40 hours a week, 7 days a week. But it's been amazing. So we've created great things. Susan, we would have these Friday morning meetings, and Susan's kind of like referees, I think, a little between Ronan and I, and we have such both passionate but different approaches to things. So her experience at IDEO and her creativity, I think if you explain that now and how you use that to manage us, that would be great.
Absolutely. I think maybe on the Friday morning calls, like it's one of the things I do quite a lot of my job is I sort of hold space for leadership teams, and I'm kind of a sounding board and an advisor. And so sometimes I think having an extra brain and an extra heart, frankly, in the room that's just there to help us be successful, that's listening, that's thinking about roadblocks, that's what I really love doing in my job. On the creativity side, I work at this kind of well-known old design consultancy, and there are a lot of unbelievably creative people there, right? Whether or not they're explicit like designers, artists, or creatives, or whether they're just business or leadership creatives. And in my work there, I had come across a lot of research into like measuring creativity. I worked on a program a number of years ago for a major US employer, and they wanted to look at ways that they could screen for creativity in the general public. So not people who necessarily have, fancy degrees or formal training, but coming from this place of thinking about how creativity and smarts are kind of distributed across the population. And so I had looked at a lot of theories of creativity, and I'd been really intrigued. And as soon as Ronan started talking to me, I immediately understood that we were missing something in the workforce because of the statistics about underemployment or unemployment of folks who are neurodivergent. I really loved his idea of putting something out there and starting to talk about evidence and measurement and ways that we can get ahead of this narrative and start to make change happen. So that's really where I came in. I have to say, I did not do half as much work as most of the authors and most of the editors on the paper. I contributed some sections, but I really was there to help us try and bring some of that into the mix. And we have a phenomenal collaborator in Canada who I'd like to give a shout out to, Nathaniel Barr, who works at BE Works, which is a very innovative behavioral science company, and he's also a professor at Sheridan College. And he really helped us round out our thinking in terms of measurement models and how we might think about creativity studies going forward. So I'll stop stop there. I'll just say that that section of the report, which Tiffany worked on, I think is phenomenal. And some of the other authors, it points to some future research that I think is aspirational, but possible for us to do. And we're hoping that folks will pick up that mantle and run with it and move the needle on this topic.
All right. So yeah, Susan has been instrumental in just bringing the different perspective. I do want to add the fact that Ronan is getting locked out of being in here. So it's kind of hilarious because he's the one who started all this. We were going to have Susan Daly, and she's coming in now. I'm going to unmute you, or unmute yourself, Susan, if you would like to. And then we can go ahead and talk about your experience. So Susan Daly is with Bank of America, and she's in charge of their neurodiversity project. Are you there, Susan?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm so glad. Susan and I haven't actually met yet, but she has been instrumental in getting the first organization, Bank of America, to support us. And we're just ecstatic about that. So Susan, thank you so much for believing in our effort. And I was wondering if you want to tell us a little bit about you and what Bank of America is doing to promote neurodiversity in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey guys, nice to hear everybody's voice, and you know, kudos to the team for handling the tech issues so elegantly. It's never fun to be in that position, but I'm glad we got the call off the ground. So I am in the Charlotte market. I work for Bank of America, as we mentioned. My day job, I'm actually working on some of the Paycheck Protection Program things that are going on right now in the world to help our small business clients and our medium and large business clients, you know, be able to weather this storm. But my passion is really around neurodiversity. I've got 3 children, 2 divergents and 1 typical. And I'm so sad we're not on video because one of my divergents for Christmas last year had some custom pins and jewelry made for me. One, the pin says neurodiversity, know it and love it, and I'm wearing that. And then I know there are debates about the phraseology of disabilities, you know, in this category, but she had a necklace made for me that says invisible disabilities. So I was going to show those off. But it was really my kids that inspired me to get this work started at Bank of America. You know, we didn't know really anything about this category when their diagnoses started coming in, and we were very concerned. There were learning disabilities and things like that that were going to hold them back. And as we learned more, what we found is that, you know, they're very high IQ, absolutely brilliant, funny, great human beings, that they just think differently, which, you know, we really see as a bonus. And I began to think, you know, a company like Bank of America could really benefit from having problem solvers like this amongst us, but that we didn't really understand. And I love how we kicked this off talking about, you know, how your approach here with this paper was to begin educating, because unlike many other kind of inclusion and diversity, you know, categories, this one is, I would say, a little either not understood or misunderstood. And so I think just beginning to help people understand and educate, you know, Bank of America, we're very focused on making sure everyone can bring their whole self to work. And because we feel like, A, it's the right thing to do, right? But B, it you know, really helps from a performance perspective when you're not constantly masking or trying to, you know, not be who you are. And I thought, gosh, you know, we've really got to make sure that folks understand this so that folks that are divergent would feel comfortable coming to work and being who they are. And so that starts with education. And so that's really what my motivation was. I'm proud to say we've done recruiting programs around neurodiversity and neurodivergence. Our executives are beginning to talk about it. We're working on launching a mentoring program. We did a broadcast, a live to desktop broadcast last year that had hundreds and hundreds of attendees, and, you know, people who were able to learn for the first time or dig deeper into topics such as, like what's the experience for a divergent working at a company like Bank of America and corporate America. So that's where we are. I would say we're still fairly immature, although I do hear that we're kind of a little bit ahead in terms of the activities and the things that we're doing. And so I'm proud of that, but I still feel like there's so much more work to do. And I'm very excited to share this paper with my colleagues and, use it as a tool to help drive the dialogue even further.
Well, we just appreciate everything you're doing. And, our whole approach has been, we have 75 or more volunteers that have been putting their, heart and soul into this effort in various forms. But, when B of A needs help, we want to be the people that can help in all the different perspectives. And I think that the beauty of this paper, and especially the beauty of this group, and what I really wanted to highlight today was that, we have so many different people and perspectives that have gone into this. And those perspectives are so important. People who are neurodivergent. I'm a mother of a neurodivergent. I'm also a researcher of people, of neurodivergent people and inclusion in the workplace. And you put all those together, and we had a lot of really challenging conversations to make sure we got this right. And I don't think you can find anything else in the world that's going to pull all these together and have the honest opinion of it and really try to satisfy all the different needs of this, population. So I hope we did it proud. I thank you, Susan, for coming in, both Susans. I'm going to go ahead and add Betsy to our call. Betsy is going to get brought in. I would bring in Ronan, but I have no idea where he is. So that's just the fun stuff. Betsy, do you want to make yourself available? Betsy's going to talk about the business case section that she helped write. Oops, I think I just unmuted her when she was trying to mute, because that's just awesome.
It will not let me start my video.
Yeah, that's, of course it won't.
Because the host has to start my video.
There we go. I'm making you a co-host because I'm just going to make the world a co-host.
Yeah.
You should be able to go ahead and do that now. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Hello.
Hi. So everybody, this is Betsy. And Betsy, if you want to tell us about yourself and how you got involved in this project, that would be
Sure.
awesome.
I'm Betsy Furler. I'm the founder of an organization called For All Abilities. Our organization helps companies navigate disability issues, whether that's the mandated ADA issues, and then we also have some proprietary software that helps employers support their employees with neurodiversity. And we also act as a fractional chief accessibility officer for those organizations that are really ready to dive into this, but may not be able to hire a in-house person for that at this time. And I came to For All Abilities from being a speech pathologist. So I have many years of working with people of all different strengths and needs and abilities. And I really love working with people who are neurodiverse. And that's kind of why I've made it my mission that all of our strengths will be used within the workplace, and instead of focusing on needs, we'll be focusing on people's strengths and really benefit from different types of brains. And I think people who are neurodiverse have so much to give our world. So I'm very passionate about that. And I got involved with this. I believe Dan Feshbach introduced me to Ronan, and then Ronan asked me to be on the team. So I promised an hour a week, or an hour every 2 weeks, I think. And it's actually been really manageable. So I promised an hour every 2 weeks, thinking it'll probably be 20 hours every 2 weeks, but it really hasn't been that much time. It's been very manageable. I've really been enjoying working on the team, and Susan and Tiffany have had it so organized. that at times I felt like, oh, I may not be doing enough.
Now you are great. So tell us about the whole business case and all the different people that went into creating that section.
So I don't know how many, there were quite a few people who worked on the business case. We looked at statistics around neurodiversity and how companies really can benefit from using their employees to their strengths and having employees with a variety of different types of strengths and brain power. I think I contributed through my clinical knowledge. And I've also done quite a deep dive for my own company into the business case and looking at different areas, efficiency, productivity, what a company can save on things like decreased employee churn if they're able to support their employees to the fullest. We also looked at how we can improve productivity and, of course, ADA issues, and avoiding any kind of ADA lawsuits or problems is also always good for a business.
All right. So I think I'm thinking back to who was on the team, and I know we had Maureen Dune. We had who's in Northern California. We had Victoria, who is in Texas, and Ronan, who is in Ireland. Yeah, we had quite the team going. So
wasn't Kathy Farmer on that team
Kathy
as well?
Farmer, exactly. Yeah, she was. Hi, Kathy. She's watching. She was on the team too. So the best part I think about this business case is that we got together as a group and we had these Zoom chats, or Zoom meetings where we would presented the business case, and we went through the business case and were able to give feedback on it. There was a lot of feedback such as it seems too tech oriented, or I don't think we're giving the right message. So to have a group sit on a Zoom and have 15 to 20 people having an active conversation about a document, it was powerful. So that just tells you the collaboration that went on. And these people that came into this were all over the world. So it's really powerful. So Betsy, I want to thank you for participating in all the work you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and invite Lewis in, and Sonia and Peter. So thank you so much for coming. All right. I'm just like got a command center going here. I am missing one person. There you are. All right. If you guys can make yourself visible, that would be great if you want to, of course. And I'm going to unpin Betsy, and I'm going to start with you, Peter.
I'm trying. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm trying to start the video, but it says you can't.
Oh, I think I have to. I am just have far too much power in this thing. I don't know if I like it. Well, goodness. Where's the whole start your video? Okay, we're going to make you co-host too. So the world's just going to be a co-host. Someone's going to give me a little primer on how to use the webinar feature that I signed up for last night. So go ahead and start your video. All right. Hey, Peter.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good.
So where are you at?
I am just outside of Boston.
We couldn't tell from your accent, by the way.
No, I'm not originally a native actually of the Boston area. I'm actually from New York City originally. So, but I am a part of the northeastern U.S. corridor. So, I think I have a kind of.
They say Californians have accents, but so Peter wrote our section on the perceptions in the media of individuals. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you got involved in this project, why you decided to get involved in your section you wrote?
Certainly. My background is in learning design and professional development, and I have a son who's on the spectrum. And like most parents, I'm concerned not only about the quality of his education, but his prospects afterwards. So I began a LinkedIn group about 18 months ago, I think, for neurodiversity in education in the workplace, in order to curate information that would help contribute to building a better pipeline to the adult world, as well as for the educational system. So Ronan reached out to me, as he did for so many people here, and said, come and join this, do this. And I, like everyone else, I said, sure. It sounds like a great project. So I was able to put together in a short time a brief snapshot of how perceptions of neurodivergent people have changed over the past, I would say, 35 years, and what led to these changes, and how these changes can be used to help create new opportunities and new resources for neurodivergent people in society in general, and education and in the workplace. And it, apart from my personal interest in this matter, it dovetails with my professional interests insofar as professional development and learning design, because in my field of learning design, I spent 20 years looking at innovative learning technologies and approaches in order to get around this very kind of cookie cutter system of education that many of us have experienced. And having a neurodivergent child has been a considerable stimulus for thinking about ways in which different ways in which people can learn more effectively. Since neurodivergent brains work differently, conventional methods don't always work well, but other methods work exceptionally well. And I suspect they would work exceptionally well for people who are even neurotypical. So working with neurodivergent people in terms of innovation design is particularly useful in terms of exploring new ways to introduce educational practices. So apart from the conversation around how neurodivergent people can enrich the workforce, their contributions in the world of education can also be considerable, because we are in a great need of a greater variety of effective educational practices. And we've certainly seen that in the last 6 months during the COVID-19 situation, where the conventional method of teaching simply wasn't going to respond to the change in the environment. And so there was a lot of very quick and very what we call emergency remote teaching, which wasn't nearly as effective as it might have been if we had introduced more divergent methods of teaching earlier on. So there's a lot of work to be done in the educational space around this, and I think the inclusion of neurodivergent thinking can really accelerate this process, which would benefit for everybody. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Peter. Peter helped us a lot too with the executive summary. He was a phenomenal writer. He just came in and it was awesome. So Peter, I just want to thank you on behalf of the whole project. Your just expertise added so much to it, and I'm really glad you got to know you. So it will be good. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Sonia to the panel.
Hi there, Tiffany.
So
you can probably hear me.
I'm gonna
co-host.
Yeah, can I see you? Did I make
Once
you a
I get my
co-host?
co-host. No, not yet.
I think I'm running out of co-host. Hold on, I'm gonna. No, you're a co-host.
Here we go. Now I am.
There you are. Let me pin you.
You can see me now.
We can see you.
Great.
Okay, this is my Brit in France.
So from Boston to Bordeaux.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us tell us about yourself and how you got involved in this project and about your experience being part of this.
Great. So I think similar to some of the other participants tonight, it was the charm of Ronan that got me involved. I got a very cryptic contact from him. And after our first discussion, I felt like I'd passed some kind of test, because then the next message was, would you like to be involved in our Stanford Innovation Team? And I said, okay, I'm open-minded. What does it entail? Very similar story to everybody else. Got drawn in, absolutely loved it. Where I come from in terms of neurodiversity is that for quite a while now, I've been volunteering in my spare time with autistic children. And then I saw the parents' fear for the future of their kids. And because I was in corporate life at that time, in talent management and recruitment roles, I realized I can do something about this. And I started to get involved in companies that were placing at that time tech skills, autistic tech skills into roles to try and spread the awareness that there are some amazing talents out there. It's been a roller coaster of a ride. So pleased I got involved in that. But what really excited me about Ronan's approach was that he was talking about the fact that we're looking to move beyond tech. And that was something I'd started to realize through my studies in autism, that there are many neurodiverse people that are feeling, funnily enough, left out of employment because they're not tech geniuses. And that really resonated with me. And so through this project, what I've loved is seeing how much we're doing on the creative space. And I've got access to so much more information that it's been so heartening that there's so much more that's happening than I realized beyond tech, which was really fantastic.
So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing in France? Because I think that's a really cool project you have going on.
Thanks. Yeah. So little known secret that I'm actually setting up a holiday home for autistic children. So newly diagnosed children, English speaking, of course, but to give their parents a bit of a break, but also to help the parents to understand a bit more about the support that's available to them, to try and figure out what motivates their particular child, because of course, everybody is unique. So try and figure out what those trigger points are and motivators. And to strike up relationships so they know they're not alone. Because as we see with 75 people pulled together between July and August, the help is out there if we can trigger it and if we can get more people involved and create more awareness. So looking forward to having my first families here in France.
That's right. Well, I wish I would have known about you when Jake, my son, who's neurodivergent, was little. It would have been nice to get a break. It was a very exhausting time. So Sonia, thank you for all your help. But Sonia worked with Victoria, who's in Texas. They wrote the DE&I section, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what we tried to do on that section is pinpoint why are companies not making neurodiversity a diversity. So we see it as a cognitive diversity. So we all have cognitive diversities. We all are neurodivergent. You'll see, a bunch of different arguments, ways to look at it. But what we said is, well, there's that deeper level diversity, which we have as an individual. The cognitive diversity is the way we think. Well, we're pretty much saying neurodivergence, or the individuals we're talking about in this paper, are those that aren't socially accepted for the way they are cognitively diverse. It's not the social norm. So even though we all are cognitively diverse, it's not accepted in some of the ways that people are. And that really breaks it down to why companies need to pause their DE&I efforts and make sure that they're including neurodiversity or cognitive diversities in this. And I think if you embrace, and this is my opinion, an individual at the heart of who they are, which to me is that cognitive diversity, it's going to make dealing with a lot of the other diversity issues a lot easier, because the people in general, I think, want to feel valued for who they are, and that's inside. But that's me on my soapbox. So I'm gonna move on to Lewis, who had a very difficult section to write. So thank you so much, Sonia, for all you did. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Lewis, I'm gonna put you on.
Okay.
I have no idea if I need to make you your co-host. Okay, everybody's co-host now.
Well, let me know if you can hear the audio.
I can hear the audio. You are good to go.
Awesome. So Tiffany, thank you for the introduction.
You could tell me about you.
Oh.
And I actually really want you to talk about that work when you do your thing. I want you to talk about that session we had, the review session, because I think that was just really cool.
Sure. I'll try to be as brief as possible because we have other participants that want to, contribute their thoughts. So, hi, I'm Lewis. I'm actually an individual contributor of this project, even though I work for a company called Rethink Benefits, where we're in the business of providing HR teams and managers training on how to be neurodiverse inclusive. So I came on board when Ronan had reached out to me through Jan Johnston Tyler. I was working on developing research around neurodiversity last year when I was switching careers. I used to be a product manager prior to working at Rethink. And we saw that there was a huge gap in the research of neurodiverse inclusion. And we were thinking about what are the specific gaps that need to be filled. And so when Ronan reached out to me about this project, I thought, this would be perfect for me to participate in and contribute my skills and experience. I had the pleasure of working with Kathy Farmer, and I know I'm probably not going to be doing her justice, giving her an introduction, because she is definitely a big wig in the community. She has two brothers who are on the autism spectrum. She is a lifelong advocate for autism. Her father, was a well-known autism advocate, and this is stemming from the 60s. Forgive me. And he also co-founded a globally recognized organization for autism research. And Kathy, when she came on board, she brought up the idea of intersectionality. And so, many of us in the community, we have other identities other than being neurodivergent. And so just for myself, I'm identify as a gay male, and I'm also Hispanic. And I had a speech condition as a child, which has shaped me as an adult. So when I worked with Kathy, we put together this section looking at all of the what they call super additive effects when you include neurodiverse conditions in the mix. So we wanted to look at specific populations and then subsegments of those populations, including those who are neurodivergent. And we looked across, different sectors, persons of color, LGBTQ, aging, or the aging community, as I should say, and religion as well. And what we found is that there's unique experiences, among, these segments of the population. So for instance, when we're looking at persons of color who are neurodivergent, some of the challenges that they face that are specific to, this community are, having difficulties, with cultural expectations, being punished for not following, community guidelines, living with shame, hiding, feeling out of place, and struggling with power dynamics and understanding hierarchies.
Sorry, Ronan got on.
Yeah, I could hear Ronan.
I'm muting him. He keeps muting him. Sorry.
So I don't want to. I know we only have 5 minutes left. So I wanted to mention that when Kathy and I were meeting frequently in order to get this section completed, but we also wanted to receive the input of the other 75 members of this community. And we got great feedback. There were some communities that we did not include, in our original report, which included the religious community and indigenous community and topics like machismo. And so, having this forum of 75 individuals is super helpful because a lot of times, we only know as much as we know, and we don't know what we don't know. And so by bringing in other perspectives, there could be other angles, with regard to research that may not be tapped into. So I was really fortunate to work with, a lot of different brilliant minds to ensure that our section was all inclusive and that we covered all different sectors. I hope that was okay, Tiffany.
That was great. Actually, to be honest, one of my favorite parts of doing this effort was that working session we had, because it was so honest. I feel like people are afraid to talk about these things, about anything to deal with color, religion, race. but we wanted it to be really honest. And so we had, I think, about 20 people worldwide that were on that. And we had some really, I think, deep, hard conversations about issues in society, in cultures. That all intersectionality is so critical because, you know, we don't all have one identity. We have many identities. And we feel like a society is always trying to put us into one bucket. And I think we try to address all that. So that was one of my favorite things. And I got to say, Lewis and Kathy were a phenomenal team, and they were right on top of everything, took all the feedback, merged it all and synthesized it and created a great section. So I really hope you guys enjoy reading it. Lewis, thank you so much for being a part of this. It's been great to get to know you even better. And thank you. All right, so on that note, I'm going to introduce the famous Ronan. All right, if I can find him on my little thing. Where'd you go? You disappeared on my little chat thing. This is just like not the Ronan show. There you are. Okay, I'm gonna pin you. Can you make your video go?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I'm making you a co-host so you can turn your video on.
I'm trying to turn it on.
The man, the myth.
I'm trying to actually.
So try it now.
Hang on. Yeah, okay, I've got it.
There we go. Ah!
Yeah, sorry about that.
We have success.
Yeah, yeah. I think this must be the way that, you know, I'm being taught how to cope with my ADHD, but it was a very good entry point. So maybe I'll just give you a little bit of an idea about what the inspiration for me, you know, getting this idea was. I kind of ended up at the medical school last year for 6 months, mainly working with medical researchers, neuroscientists, psychiatrists, psychologists. And I was intrigued because not only did I learn about my own brain, but the fact that actually all human brains are unique and there's this element in all of us, but particularly so in the neurodiverse people where there's this extra creativity because of our brain wiring. So the more I was at the medical school, the more I learned about my own ADHD brain. So that's one thing. And then the second thing was, you know, in my conversations with the business school at the time, everybody was talking last year about, oh, we really need innovation. Society's in a really bad place. You know, we really need out-of-the-box thinkers. We really need innovation. Now, where are all the innovators? And honest to God, like in my cycle between the medical school and the business school, I was saying to myself, when I met the medics, they're all saying that we neurodiverse people have this amazing capacity for innovation. And then I go over to business school and they're saying, like, we really need innovation. So all I did, honestly, was just connect A with B. And I said, my God, these two different domains that are not talking to each other have the answer to society's problems. So when I, in the first week in June, got the email from the GSB basically saying like, we want to try and change the world, I immediately thought of that idea. So that was it, just me connecting two different domains that I'd been exposed to, the medical school domain and the business school domain. And then in my first few weeks, I think I had cumulatively about 15 ideas, most of which are still in my Lever Arch folder. But by the time Tiffany reached out to me, I had really focused on the idea of creativity because I was thinking, oh my God, this is where we can play a part. This is the unique product market fit of neurodiverse people. This is the unique product offering in the world today. The ability to connect dots in different domains and the ability to have creativity and innovation. So that was kind of the genesis of it. And then Tiffany, then Susan, then I suppose the whole 80 of us or whatever the number is now, but effectively all the research and all the work that you've been hearing about has all been to show society and to be able to prove in terms of business case and in terms of innovation agenda that actually neurodiverse people can play a big role here. And it's to try and raise awareness. And I suppose there's a few other things you'll read in our report. One of the things is that it turns out that 99.9% of organizations, DEI does not include neurodiversity. So rightfully, the fact that there's so much work going on in racial and in ethnic and in gender, like completely rightly so, but actually there's nobody even making a start in neurodiversity. So I suppose that's the movement we're at. And, you know, what I'd ask everybody in this call is whether AIB or whether it's Bank of America or the tech companies to help us implement this. Like, it's great to have this report, but now it's time for implementation. I think that's about really, you know, it's all in the report. Tiffany, is there anything else that you might like to me to say?
I think, we all know Ronan as the Irish Energizer Bunny. So I got to tell, the stories of Ronan. So Ronan and I, met, and I said, okay, I'd help him do this project. Next thing I know, I am getting emails from him. He's been talking all night long while I'm sleeping here in California. He's in Ireland working the whole time. So I wake up and this is what I started doing to my phone, looking to see how many introductions I had from Ronan every morning. This is like, maybe I should have my coffee first. But I can't, like, Ronan, how many people have you talked to over the last 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks?
I'd say about 300, I'd say.
Yeah. And that's just amazing. And he spread his word and his passion. And it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but the thing that I was really, really surprised at, given that my perceptions last year at the medical school was nobody knows anything about neurodiversity. But what I thought was amazing, maybe it's because it's the spirit of the times, but whenever I reached out to the universe, it's a bit like, the way you get these animals in the wild and birds, and they send out a song, and whatever way the radar picks it up, like, there's kind of like the call of the wild, and all of a sudden there's all kinds of reactions. And that's the way I would describe my feeling over the last 3 months, that like whenever I put out a call to the wild, like there's always an instantaneous reaction. And for me, the whole feeling of this movement was like literally in the first week in June, I jumped onto the road, and then all of a sudden within like whatever 6 to 8 weeks, there's 5 other people on the road with me. That's the way it feels. So probably this is the way, I suppose, in gospel terms, the apostles might have felt at the very beginning, that like, that there's some bit of good news, and every now and again people say, oh yes, my God, we need that right now. And this is, one part of the solution. So I think for me, it's been stepping back about a month ago and realizing that it's not just about delivering a Stanford Business School project. That actually about 3 weeks ago, I woke up one Wednesday morning and said, oh my God, this is a movement. And that's why Tiffany set up the website. I think as of today, Tiffany, we have about 250 people in it. And they're not all people.
Well, we have the LinkedIn site.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant
we have the LinkedIn site. We have about 250, and then we have the website, which the paper is live on now. So
but I think
we're planning on using the site to be more proactive and kind of a catalyst for change in this industry. Reach out to any of us.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I would say, just what I'm amazed and really happy about is actually there's a real appetite for the minute you try to connect on this subject, there's no amount of people who want to have a chat about it. So it's really good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring on our research team. And we're going to get talking. I'm trying to see if people need to run. We're running late, so hopefully you guys can hang out with us a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Corey. And I'm going to bring in Nicole, and I'd like to bring in Hari. So I'm going to unpin your video, and I'm going to go ahead and pin your guys' videos. And Hari, there you are. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick introduction. So this team was responsible for putting together what we call more of our research side. So them and a couple other people, but we wanted it to be some moving forward actions that we can make. So with any good research study, you have to do the background of the problem. So this team helped with that. So what we saw as we were going through it is we found a study, and this is kind of where our study comes from, where people who were, low in executive functioning were actually high in creativity, and people that were high in anxiety were higher in creativity. And it kind of made us think that we know a lot of people who are neurodivergent that have challenges with executive functioning and anxiety, and that is a comorbid challenge. So we decided to do some background research on that and lead into a study, which I'll talk about a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Corey. And Corey, if you can tell us about yourself, what you do, and also your section of the report and your experience. You're muted, Corey.
I always do that. All right. So
Me too.
first, I do. But so I got this in mail from Ronan. It just said, "Hey, do you want to talk sometime?" And I was like, I wonder what we would talk about. And I looked at his profile. I see he's involved in some kind of a neurodiversity project, and I have that on my profile. So I thought, okay, this is probably what we're going to talk about. And then we talked for about 10 minutes, and he said, okay, I'm going to put you in touch with Tiffany, and then we'll go from there. You only have to do about an hour a week if you want to. I mean, no way is anyone going to only do an hour a week for something like this important, at least to me, having a child who is autistic, and I want her to have a job when she's older, in a field that she likes, you know? So anyway, turns out, Tiffany, you are already one of my connections. And Nicole works for you. I've known Nicole for over a year on LinkedIn, and we've had little chats back and forth. So it was really funny for me to go through all that process. Anyway, got involved in the project, and I wrote the section on education because I have a background as a teacher. I worked with some autistic children, and then I ended up having an autistic child. I can really relate to people who are autistic because I'm a divergent thinker, and I'm a little bit eccentric. So I've always been interested in studying people because I find them to be strange sometimes, perhaps the same way that an autistic person might view other people. So I love autistic people. Anyway, so I've been very happy to be involved in this project. I hope that my education section will be helpful to further some research and to make employers realize that what is the point of giving people a good education or giving them hope to get employment after an education if there's no employment there for them. So that's what I would like to give that message. People who are neurodivergent really have some great things to offer and some good ideas. Businesses talk about innovation being so important, and yet I've found whenever I offer new ideas, you're really pushing against the status quo. So what do we want? Do we want change or not? So
We want change.
let's do it. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, yeah, I've been lucky enough to meet Corey through this effort, even though we were connected. And like Nicole, Corey starts working for me at Grit and Flow next week as a consultant. So I'm very excited. And if it wasn't for this project, I wouldn't have found this great resource that's going to help us put some of our everything together that we're doing at my company. So Corey, thanks for being part of my team and this greater team. So I'm going to introduce. Excited. Yeah, we're gonna do some good stuff. And so now I'm going to move on to Nicole, and then we'll have Hari. So Nicole is amazing in many ways. She is a member of the Grit and Flow team, but she, to be honest, has taken a bigger role than anybody will know in this paper. She has saved my behind so many times in the last 8 weeks by editing something, writing something, filling in blanks, finding errors yesterday, and we were trying to publish. I would have been lost without Nicole. So thank you, Nicole, so much for everything you did. If you want to tell us about yourself and about the part that you and Hari wrote, and then be great.
My name's Nicole, and like Tiffany said, I work with her at Grit and Flow. And as Corey mentioned, we've known each other a little while on LinkedIn. She's so sweet. I disappeared for a little while posting, and she was kind enough to send me a message just checking in, which I thought was really great. It's not an experience I've had with many LinkedIn connections, so I really appreciate that. I'm a person who's passionate about both research and neurodiversity in the workplace, so getting involved with the project was a way to fuel my passions. Not to mention, it was the first time I had the opportunity to work with so many team members. I worked on the anxiety section with Hari, and we highlighted the presence of anxiety across the different types of neurodiversity. Prior to learning that I myself am autistic, I had wild panic attacks daily. And after I learned about sensory overload and that I was experiencing autistic burnout, I worked with my anxiety and have finally found workarounds and ways to reduce anxiety. So it's important. This is going to bring attention to the workforce, but it's also just going to bring greater attention to neurodiversity in general and sort of expand what we think it looks like. Hari and I had a great working relationship. We worked using Google Docs, and we collaborated mostly through that and email and the chat function in Google Docs. We pulled together research and lived experiences to give our section a personal voice beyond the silence. Personally, I gained a lot working with Hari. We met each other on every level of the project, and I've worked in some projects where the work wasn't so evenly split. But like I said, with Hari, we met sentence by sentence on everything. And I've never had the opportunity to work with a fellow autistic, and it was awesome. We were in tune and worked fast and efficiently. And I definitely take on another project with Hari. He's a good team member, a great writer, and he has a lot of amazing input. There's no reason for the high rate of our unemployment or underemployment. I myself have struggled with employment, particularly interviews, panel interviews. As someone with a master's degree, a lot of the jobs that I interview for are higher level, so they are more intense interviews. We have skills and abilities, and we have the desire to use them in the pursuit of a job that we find meaningful and fulfilling. So what I hope from this effort is that people can see that so many people joined together to work on this project, and that if this many people are going to take time out of their day-to-day lives to volunteer so much on a project, then that should tell the community that there's a lot of focus on this, and that there's a lot of people behind this, there's a lot of support, and that this is really a movement that needs to take off. So finally, I hope people recognize that this is an incredible document that we've created. We've pulled together almost like a one-stop shop for all of the information and inputs and outputs that you might need to know to understand the picture and to develop some program yourself. So thank you very much. Hari's going to speak next, and he's going to talk about the project. And it was great working with everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Hari, I'm going to give you the floor. If you haven't noticed, Hari goes to Cal because he's kind of quiet about it through the hat and the banners and the shirt. He's a proud bear. So Hari's going to go ahead and talk to us about what he's done.
It was great working with Nicole. So I thought. Hi, everyone. My name is Hari Srinivasan. As you probably figured out by now, I am using a text-to-speech app to communicate, as I am a minimally speaking autistic. I'm a student at UC Berkeley, majoring in psychology and minoring in disability studies. I write for the Daily Californian and have written a lot about autism and disability issues. This will be my 4th semester teaching a 1-unit, semester-long class on autism. And this year I am the first minimally speaking autistic present for the student org Spectrum at Cal. And a super exciting and unexpected thing that happened this summer was that I got featured on President Obama's Instagram on the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Politics aside, it is an honor to be mentioned by a president of the United States. It gives me hope and encouragement that even lives like mine with significant disabilities are lives that are worth to society, that I can make and impact. I actually heard about this project from another recent Berkeley graduate, Cole, who is also part of this project. Ito's been an unusual summer sitting at home with rampant cabin fever. A with circle 6 paragraph sign 5A with Ito's been an unusual, so I thought, why not take on the topic of anxieties? I actually heard about this project, so I thought, why not take on the topic of anxiety as a comorbidity and write on it? Writing can be cathartic and therapeutic as well as informational for others, and I have written on mental health and autism before. Other topics I was interested in writing about was how neurodiversity is defined, how it is represented in the media, the creativity part, and the whole special education system, which is a mess with gatekeeping at every level. Had lots of thoughts on many of these things. Of course, it's absolutely unrealistic to take on writing so many. So I focused on the anxiety part, but was able to add inputs to other different areas in the meetings. Tiffany was also super helpful in funneling a lot of research articles my way as I was trying to set up the remote login to the Berkeley library system to access research materials. So that was super helpful. Sometimes the hardest part is to get started, and Nicole was really great on that, and she outlined a nice framework to work within. It was great working with Nicole and Eric on this team. So the section is a combination of literature review of existing research and incorporating personal experiences to give it a human angle. That there are real people at the end of it reflecting lived experiences. I think mental health is something that people have not quite understood, a kind of fuzzy logic. Sometimes it seems like the newest buzzword to be used almost like a fashion accessory, which saddens me as it dilutes the needs of those who really have to live with it. Everyone also seems to assume that mental health is a standalone condition. So if you have autism, it must preclude anxiety. I think what we are trying to say is that anxiety is a very real thing, a very real coexisting condition, a very real comorbidity of neurodivergence. If you think about it, mental health is inevitable after years of feeling different, that you don't belong, and being excluded. The nature of the neurodiversity itself, whether it's autism, ADHD, or dyslexia or dysgraphia, can itself be a source of anxiety, as can environmental factors and societal attitudes. We go into explaining these in the report. It does not matter if the disability is very visible, like in my case, or invisible, as in the case of many others. Each has different anxieties around it. I have both learned from and enjoyed writing this section, as well as reviewing and providing feedback to other sections. I think one of the surprising ironies of this pandemic, or rather its bright lights, is that Zoom has been able to connect us to people from around the world. It was amazing to hear different perspectives across time zones and across continents. So we were zooming and working off the same Google Drive, and it did not matter that we were literally crossing physical oceans.
All right. Thank you, Hari. I learned a lot too, having a minimal speaking member of the group. So we're having these Zoom sessions. And so we had to learn to turn on the chat box to give Hari and David, who also has some of the same challenges, the opportunity to speak. And we had to have the patience to listen and to communicate and to understand when they were speaking or typing into the chat box, or if they were typing into their voice readers. But I did tell you one time they got me because their voice readers had the same voice and I couldn't tell who was talking. It was very challenging. So I'm voting for we actually get to like customize the voices in those things. But Hari added so much perspective, and I learned so much really about how we need to educate working with teams like this that are going to have different types of communicators. So it was just really enlightening. So I want to thank you guys for the third section.
Just say Tiffany, for me as well, Hari, amen to everything you said about Hari. For me as well, that was a massive life learning for me as well. Yeah, just say amen.
Yeah, I'd like to close up. We're gonna we appreciate everybody putting up with our challenges today at the tech. I'll figure that out later. We hope you guys read the report. We hope that you read the intro to the report, because you'll get to see the perspective we took on it. We took every effort and wholeheartedly to not offend anybody and to keep all perspectives in it. I think we probably wrote down those few first parts so many times, but this has been an honor to kind of be the project manager for this team. I love the fact that I have all these new friends everywhere in the world, and that I'll always have. And I have a lot of like-minded individuals. So if you go on ndmovements.com, you can read the paper. There's also a link to our LinkedIn group where you can join us, or you can subscribe to get any kind of updates. So starting next week, we're going to really start defining what we want to make out of this movement. We'll be doing that through our LinkedIn site, and anybody who wants to participate in, deciding how we're going to be a catalyst for change and to come together and unite to make a huge impact. We would love your intake. So I'm 100% available. Ronan's always available. We're going to sign off now. I don't know if you have any last, there's some questions, I guess. Well, okay. Susan or Nicole, who wants to read the questions? No one wants to read the questions. Corey, do you want to read the questions?
Sure. It just says there's a question asking what we're doing they came in a little bit late.
Oh, okay. You know, we'll get to some of the questions. We'll try to look over the chats. We're going to record this also, or it's been recorded, and we'll put it on the NDGifts website and a link on our LinkedIn account, and we'll be good to go. So Ronan, do you have any last minute things you want to add? No.
No,
You're
no,
muted.
no, that's right. Just the main thing, actually, what I take away from this whole thing, honestly, the whole 3 months is the relationships we've built and the momentum we've built. And I'm just really determined that we won't lose the momentum and the learning. And, you know, just like it's making this happen on the ground. That's the main thing. That's the next job for all of us. But just the main thing is being the joy of meeting all you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you again for putting up with our technology challenges. I'm at Tiffany@gritandflow.com. I am always available to help out in any way I can. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. So on that note, happy reading. Bye everybody.